Welcome back to Arcadian Insight. Today is Tuesday, July 30th, 2019, and it's episode number 26. I am Matt Franceschi, and joining me today I have Adam Wolf, Ben Bachman, and Josh McNeil. No Dave today. He is unfortunately on vacation. Trending news today, we're going to be talking all about the Fortnite World Cup that just happened this past weekend, and we're also going to dive into a new report that was just released that states that 74% of adult gamers have experienced some form of online harassment during their lives. But the main topic today is going to be something that we usually try to not talk about too much. But today it's going to be the entire show. Politics in video games. So we talk very often about how we don't want politics in our games. And I think that we're right in saying that. And I think that when I say that, just like for me personally, maybe you guys might feel the same way. But what I mean is that I really don't want US politics in my games. I don't want to have this like Trump Bernie Sanders theme going on like as I play a video game. I get it all the time in real life. And I also don't want to be like force fed some narrative that is lazy and just not done well. But on the other side of that, I feel like I really love politics in games. Some of my favorite games of all time have had very heavily politically influenced themes from start to finish. But I kind of think that the current cancel culture that we have, as well as the outrage culture, has scared devs from wanting to go near any sort of political narrative. And I think that that's kind of negatively affecting the stories and the games that we're getting on the market. So I don't really have a super tight narrative for this show, but I just kind of wanted to get the topic started here and just get your thoughts on this subject and just kind of get started on this and just see what you guys thought about it.
Well, mute your mics and just let Ben go.
Done.
I got nothing to say, man.
Perfect. Yeah, he's all silent.
Apolitical.
You know what? I think, was it even just last week? Last week or 2 weeks ago, maybe, when we were talking about CD Projekt Red and how they were saying they were going to have political themes, but it wasn't going to be politically charged, and they were also...
That was The Outer Worlds. That was Obsidian.
Yeah.
Obsidian said, okay. I'm thinking, was Cyberpunk the religious one? Okay.
That's also like very recent news, yeah.
Right. So I think that maybe in both of those cases, I know I was a little harsh on them on Twitter, CD Projekt Red, that is, disclosing something like that, but that may be a step in the right direction, like you were saying, Matt, that in recent years, I can't think of a title that has done politics well. When I think back in the best games that kind of tackled this issue and made honestly a more immersive world for it, having good politics systems, nothing in the last probably 5 to 8 years comes to mind, and anybody that's attempted to do it, I don't think they've really hit the mark. So moving forward here, if a CD Projekt Red or Obsidian can hit these issues and not step on toes, right? And they're not looking at, I think I said it before, like, the two political figures can't look like current politicians. They can't be like Donald Trump up there and Hillary Clinton going at it. Like, you can't do that. That's not the kind of politics I want to see in a video game. I want to see it more to build up like the world elements to make me forget about, the politics going on around me in my day-to-day life. If I want to think back to a game that has done this really well, I think that Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, those original games, both, I think more so two, really every time you went to a new planet, you were essentially interjected into the politics of that world, and you were forced to pick a side essentially, or fight for one cause or the other, and to try and rectify those situations. And it made you feel like you had a stake in what was going on. They did a good job of not, being too heavy-handed with it. Granted, it was essentially forced on you. It was story plots, but it didn't feel like it was forced. You wanted to make these decisions. They were fun. The politics made sense. They weren't, I don't know, they weren't overbearing, I guess I should say. And I know you guys have played those games. How did you feel about them?
BioWare did an awesome job with the first one in particular. The second one was great, but the first one was so good, and I'm so glad you brought it up because that was like the first game that really came to my mind as a game that really had you picking and choosing. Like as soon as they drop you onto Terrace in that first area, you're already, like what gangs are you siding with?
Yeah.
What, light or dark decisions. It wasn't just whether, it was what path you're taking in terms of Jedi or Sith. I mean, gang rivalries, you were choosing gangs, you were choosing, and just the whole. I can't pick a better example as like you just did with Knights of the Old Republic in the games that I've played.
Yeah, I played the first one halfway through, and I've watched Wolf beat it probably like 30 times in the basement tapes.
Basement games.
Basement gaming,
yeah, basement gaming, and what the hell was that? Where did you used to live? But regardless, yeah, the decisions were the main thing with that game that made it really immersive. It just seemed like every dialogue you were making a decision that was impactful. Even like small things, it's like it was going to take you in a different direction in the story. So it was really immersive in that way.
I don't think the MMO even did as good a job as that original Xbox game, Knights of the Old Republic. No. The Old Republic, I don't think even can hold a candle to it, in my own opinion. And to go even further with BioWare, that Mass Effect 1 and 2 did the same thing, like good stuff. The third one, but this 1 and 2, if you guys haven't played them, especially you, Wolf, if you really enjoyed the dialogue options and the political stuff that you got from that, the first one in particular is fantastic.
Yeah, that was one that kind of came to my mind, but I hadn't played those. I watched Matt play them a little bit. Do you know what the Mass Effect situation? Would you say that did?
What do you mean? Like what it did political avenue? Just the same thing that Old Republic did. It was like as to Ben referred to when he said he was unsure about Outer Worlds. You got your stereotypical, and believe me, it's beyond just the stereotypical. It's good. It's Knights of the Old Republic good, but not quite there. But just the whole the planets. You have conflict between race and planets, all that stuff.
That's the big one in Mass Effect.
All there, it's all there, just like Knights of the Old Republic was, with the dialogue options and everything. I think the only thing that holds Knights of the Old Republic over the original Mass Effect 1 for me is just the charm and the nostalgia of it. But both of them were, and I played the Mass Effect games late, like real late, and they were. It was still really good. Like the second one was years old by the time I even played the first one.
Yeah.
Totally worth your time. Totally.
Yeah, but I never played the first one. I heard it's really good. Mass Effect 2 I played. I love that game. Like you said, I don't think you were making decisions as frequently, but it was kind of a newer game, so that had the graphics going for it. So that was kind of that's one of the things with newer games. I think they don't have to try as hard with dialogue and decisions because they already have the flashy graphics and all the gameplay mechanics and everything like that. So I feel
sorry.
But definitely, I'm in agreement with you. There was a lot of tension. It seemed like between the different alien races in Mass Effect. You get that feel in Star Wars, but with Mass Effect, it was like you really knew that they didn't fucking like each other, and they had like this turmoil going on with each other and stuff.
Even if you decide to not play the third one, what makes Mass Effect just like right there, maybe to even it out with Knights of the Old Republic, was that the decisions you made in the first one carried over to the second one, which didn't happen from KOTOR and KOTOR 2.
Yeah.
But I think Star Wars is a very easy example because it's always been political.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I think one of the big reasons for that is that both of those games take place in space, so you can essentially make up the races as you go, and make them conflict in ways that would honestly be really hard for somebody to tackle those issues on a a game that was, you know, based in reality, like on our planet, that kind of thing. You know, it's kind of like the scapegoat way to tackle the politics, but not offend anybody or step on any feelings, as long as you're not like, you know, like stereotyping, you know, like, oh, this is like obviously the American race, or, you know, or like the American culture is this race being represented like by this alien race, that kind of thing. Like, you don't make it like that obvious.
Sure, some people do pop that into their head.
I'm sure it happens, but you know, it's just easier for the developers, right? And I think another thing you spoke to was, you know, the weight of your decisions, and that feels really good, especially in a political sense. I don't think there are more important decisions in games to be made than like those big sweeping, like politically charged ones. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Dragon Age did the same thing. Perfect example.
Right.
You know.
Right. You know, you're set up to make these huge decisions that affect like everybody in the world. Like any game can make the little decisions, like, oh, do you kill so and so who's standing right in front of you? But like, I don't know, do you like enact this policy or something, like in certain games that like half the galaxy starves or something crazy, you know, like those kind of politics, the big scale stuff.
When you say that, go ahead, Ben.
Or like the decisions where you like let a disease loose on a certain alien race, or, you know, I can think of those. I think that actually happened in Mass Effect.
Too. With the Krogans.
Yep.
Yeah. Because they were very prone to overpopulation, and that's what those skinny guys were all about.
I don't know if that was already in place. I don't know if that was a decision, or maybe it was.
And in the second one, it was. Yes, you could choose to allow the Krogans to repopulate, or
Now I remember.
That's funny.
I think, and I don't know if you guys have read this. Maybe Ben, maybe your brother Ben, but I think KOTOR did politics. And maybe I can even include Dragon Age Origins as well as Mass Effect in here, as well as Game of Thrones did politics to fantasy, and even more specifically, Dune did in literature.
They were saying that Knights of the Old Republic did it better.
I think that as well as, you know, if you've ever read Dune, if you're into the whole space political thing,
I heard it's really good. I've never had it.
I mean, at least the first 4 books, but the first one in particular, you know, the whole political. I know this is a movie thing. We're on games, but
struggling over there.
Another game that did that really well was the Witcher series, I thought.
Yep.
I think Witcher 3 did it best, but one that really came to mind for me was Witcher 2. Like the first town you get into, I don't know if you guys have played Witcher 2. But like the first town you get to, the town is split, and the humans are all like allowed to live in the city, where like the elves and dwarves are like kind of shipped off like into their own little encampment. Like very clearly like can be like highly political, right? But like it doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
And like as you're navigating that space and you're interacting with people, like you feel for the dwarves and elves, but you also like don't like necessarily think that like the humans that are in the city are like evil for doing so. It's like very well written. And I really think that like the writing is what's really important here. And I don't know if it's a case of devs not wanting to take the time to write a great story, or being afraid to write a great story due to backlash from like every group like ever made, just like with the culture that we have. But it seems like we can't get something like that, something that's very in-depth and multifaceted, right?
Yeah, right.
And that's really what it takes to create this landscape.
Yeah, to create the political without injecting modern politics into it. It's like I think that that's been drawn away from. We've in the gaming developers have went away from story based things. I mean, I talk about it all the time and harp on it, but because there's so much emphasis on flashy gameplay mechanics and graphics, or, you know, skins, or because they don't think it's necessary. I mean, think about it. Think about how long it takes people to write books. To put together a really intricate, in-depth story that spans time. If you're gonna make a good one, it has to span hundreds of years, thousands of years. You know what I mean? To do that that's a lot. You got to have a really unique person to be able to accomplish that.
I think that's why you saw From Software reach out to George R.R. Martin.
Exactly.
And they got him to write the entire backstory of the world of the game. That's what they hired him for. He didn't write the game story. He wrote the entire world story. So like, as you go through, I think you get like Miyazaki's. What's with the eye roll, Josh? Are you not excited for it, or?
I just wish that guy would stop having distractions to make this goddamn book series.
No, I'm with him. It's like, get off Sharknado.
Yeah,
he can't be on Sharknado.
Yeah, right.
I watched that video.
But anyway,
go ahead, man.
Anyway, I just think that they see the value in having somebody that's a great writer write that part of the story, because if you have that backstory, the world feels alive. And
you are correct, and Martin is good at that. I think that we will get an excellent example of fantasy, not real politics in the game, because I think there's a fine line there.
It's subjective, though.
Like people like Mass Effect, Andromeda. We brought it up before. The whole transgender thing. We did not need real world. I don't even think we even need real world terminology. I think the game should be able to flesh out its own politics in its own way to be good, and I think Wolf brought something up, and before I forget, he was talking about just freedom in general to allow you to do it, and I'm sure there's a mod that would let you do this, but I really wish Skyrim would have let you they would have just unchanged you a little bit and unhinged, because there's stuff in that game that you weren't allowed to do because it was story related. But I think they should have just let you do it anyway. Just give you that option to even further your individual choices in the politics of the game.
Right.
Like if don't not let me kill this guy when I can kill everybody else in the game because he's tied to a specific quest. If I choose to kill that guy, then SOL. And to boot, that adds, what we talked about before in great detail, replay value. It gives you even more incentive to go back and see what's different. Right. I think that it's good that they let you know, hey, this character is a much larger
development.
Yeah, but I mean, if Skyrim can do it, I mean, like, look at the Stone Age shit they're working with, and people still love that game. But I think, give me that. Let me know that this is important. If you want to see a certain thing fleshed out, but give me the option to do it either way. And I'm sure there's mods in Skyrim that let you do, just take those locks off, but don't limit me. But give me all of it.
So in that case specifically, and I did want to touch on this too, is I think Skyrim did a really poor job in a political sense, the politics of that world. And then to speak specifically to what you were talking about, even just between games, I mean, you could do that in Morrowind. And when you killed somebody you weren't supposed to, like, it let you know, it was like, you can't beat the game now, but you like could live with that decision. You were allowed to do those things. You could role play it. But, just talking about...
why do you think they took that away?
Well, I think it's just a changing of the times, right? I think that now there's a lot more hand-holding in games. Like, they're not going to let you fail. There's fail safes in there to make sure you get to the completion of the game, as they intended to see it. And to talk about the politics of Skyrim, I think, one of the overarching themes apparently of that game is the first thing you start doing is like that, what the Stormcloak and Imperial, they're kind of going at it.
I think in the first thing before they even let you loose is you pick between the Nords and the Empire, who you choose to go with. Like when Alduin is attacking,
right?
Like
and
right away,
you leave the town, and then I feel like it doesn't even matter anymore. Like that decision you made. I mean, you can follow through it. There's story to it, but you can just not touch it, and it would not affect you. There's no
the decision could not even be there, and you'd have the same game.
Right. There's no interconnectedness between the weight of decisions you make in a game like Skyrim and in a game, you know, like Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic that we were talking about, and games like that, where I like what Ben brought up about what George R.R. Martin, you know, and his world building and the politics. What I think he does a really good job at in his books is making sure that there's a lot of interconnectedness between the politics and the decisions. You know, these decisions people are making have far-reaching consequences, and a game like Skyrim really lets us down, I feel like, in that regard. And I'm excited to see what, you know, someone like George can do, and, you know, with the politics of a video game moving forward.
Another thing, very true with George R. R. Martin, another thing that he does well is he gives a lot of information on the history of the politics. So there's a building up, you know what I mean? There's another layer of immersion and a building up of the feelings that, like, you feel like you're a part of the politics in that, because you have such a rich history of it.
So much so that he made more books to do it, you know, outside of the series. But question for Maddie and Wolf in particular, and when I think politics, and maybe you might tie this more close to like real world stuff, is, I mean, I played a little bit, but Civ, you know, like I never really played it, but I would like to know, you know, like,
I almost wanted to exclude a game like Civilization from a conversation like this, because you know, I thought about that a lot, because I feel like the politics in that game come from a different place than the politics in a game like Skyrim or Knights of the Old Republic or something like that. It's
much more of a war effort, war standard.
Right. I feel like it's more of a game mechanic than like a plot device, like an immersion thing. Granted, it does make the game more immersive, but it doesn't immerse. It's not immersing you in like a world that's like apart from our own, that kind of thing. I like that it's
I think that was a really good question, but yeah, I think what Adam said, it's more of just a game mechanic that allows you to play the game than it is like a concept that you can think about and wrap your head around. And I think that a game that does politics and story building really well usually is built around an idea. And I think that that's what we've been missing. It's like, you know, BioShock 1 is completely written about the idea of it's a criticism of Ayn Rand, right?
Yes.
Very clearly. It's a libertarian society, right? It's a criticism of that society. That's what BioShock 1 is, right? And you really I can't think of a game in recent times that's gone out to do something that big. But that's why people love BioShock. Yeah, the atmosphere is great and the gameplay is great, but it's really that idea and the characters that are built around that concept that make you think like, okay, what's going on in this world? Like, what are people talking about in these tapes? Like, what did Andrew Ryan build under the sea, and why did he build it? Like, what is the importance of the society, right?
Right. Well, it was the scientific utopia, scientific freedom, you know.
I don't even know that it was purely scientific. It was the concept that like it was only going to be people that had high value that were going to go down there and build this society where they weren't held down by everybody else in the society that didn't have any value.
Yeah, but if you remember, he did that because they weren't allowed to. That's where the whole what was the mechanic in the game? What did they call that? The use of the abilities.
Eve.
Yep. He did that because of that. Yeah. It was not considered politically correct to experiment and do the things to advance that technology and that science in that game. But so that was his main drive to go down there and do that. You know, he saw it as, yes, I can do more with that. But the reason because, I mean, that was really what it was about. You know, he wanted to really see where this Eve thing could go, and that's why he went down there.
I'm not sure if that was the main driver or not. It might have been, but I'm not sure that I agree with
From what I remember, it was, but like that's the reason why it fell apart.
But even there, I mean, just look at something as simple as that. You have Adam and Eve, the naming of things that are in the game that are very important to you. You know, the first two people like in paradise. I mean, and he's trying to build this paradise. Like everything about that game was so well thought out. Like every concept and every item name and everything about it was like, it was perfect. And that's why it's beloved. But it was willing to go there, you know? And I think people aren't willing to do that now.
Right. Yes. Have you guys ever watched or read Dinotopia? Seen anything about that?
No.
Maybe this is just my boyish Jurassic Park love coming out, but a lot of the same stuff. But that's no video game, so.
Yeah, no, I like all the BioShocks. I think they really do set you they put you in a world that it's not so much obviously it's not a decision, it's your walk through the game, but it really feels like you're in there with the politics, you know what I mean, like and especially in Infinite.
Right. Well, right. Isn't like that whole point, like, it's that interesting that it's funny to me that, like, you, Matt and Josh can have that conversation as to, like, even just the lore, the origin of the game. I feel like there's a lot of games that you can't even get to that level of depth in the story. But they make a story that's immersive enough that, granted, maybe you don't make a ton of decisions that have, like, a lot of, like, far-reaching consequences, that kind of thing. But it's so engaging that you want to see more. You have to learn more about it. You're reaching out to find more detail.
Yeah, and it has little clues all throughout, like, you know, with the recordings and the items that you get, and it all links together. It's just such a great story.
It's so engaging that, like, you're literally under the sea and in the sky in, like, 1950, and you're not even worried about it. You're like, yeah, okay, this makes sense to me.
Yeah,
I can see this. I can understand. You know, or like with a story like Game of Thrones, like, there's literally people, like, coming back to life. And you've got this, like, fire god or whatever, and, like, nobody even cares because it doesn't matter. Because the story is so damn good that you're just like, okay, I'll suspend my disbelief. Like, let's go.
Yeah, everyone wants to get into, like, the politics of, like, what's Tyrion gonna do next, or what, you know, is Daenerys gonna kill everybody or whatever?
It's not even mention the dragons.
Yeah, or like the fucking or millions of whites that are coming down to fucking, like, kill everybody. Those guys.
You're just like, they probably exist. Sure, I get it.
There are two games that I think do politics particularly well and not well. And I think if you guys have ever played any of the Wolfenstein games, like, I think a lot of it is meant to be a joke, but, like, Wolfenstein does politics like corny. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it knows it wants to be like that.
Oh yeah.
So there's that avenue of politics in games as well. But I don't know how many of the MGS games you guys play, but Metal Gear Solid is extremely political. Like, it's all politics. Like, this whole story is all politics, you know, war effort and, you know,
arms race.
I feel like that I haven't played the Wolfenstein, but it kind of seems like in that avenue to me, it kind of takes itself, I don't know, in the game it's serious, but on the outside looking in, it's almost a little light.
It's quirky, it's corny,
right? It's like more like fun, and in that sense, I guess it's definitely like a niche genre kind of thing.
Far Cry is another series that is very politically heavy.
Never played any of this.
They look ridiculous.
I've only played 4.
I mean, they're all the same.
We lose
Josh.
Oh no! What
Sorry to anybody listening. I think we just lost Josh.
I bet his power went out in the storm.
What? Now I forgot what I was gonna say.
I actually. No, there he is.
Okay, he's back.
Oh, okay.
Josh, you here? We lost you for like 20
you
seconds.
had a really flattering exit there.
Yeah, we thought we lost you.
But yeah, Far Cry, especially this last one, it even got attention in the news because of the whole religious and political avenues
but that felt
with the whole white supremacy thing.
Yeah, but that felt a little bit forced to me. I felt like that was a weak narrative.
Yeah,
no,
but it's there.
But it seemed like it's there. That was one of the ones where I felt that it was kind of in your face.
Yes,
it wasn't an idea. They weren't battling a concept or engaging the player with a concept. They were engaging the player with, like, hey, white supremacy is bad and racism is really bad. And, like, while that is a great message, that isn't engaging. No. Like 99.9% of your population already thinks that.
Yeah.
There's still the good guys.
You don't
and the
need
bad
to like
guys,
challenge.
you know?
Yeah, you
really
don't need to
compelling
challenge
shit
that.
there.
Yeah.
You know, we really got to think about that.
Everybody a 3-year-old kid knows that. So it's just not. Yeah, you don't want to build your world around that. It's just ugh.
Yeah. Now, a 3-year-old kid doesn't know that if you spread, that there's this huge mongoloid alien race out in space, and if you spread this disease and kill them, you can control their population and shit. Like that doesn't click with,
Warhammer.
So you have to
40K.
investigate that with your imagination a little bit more.
Warhammer. If you played any of the Warhammer, not Warhammer elves and all that stuff, but 40K universe is very it's like Star Wars, like the Empire, stuff like that.
Yeah,
religion very involved.
Wolf doesn't like Warhammer lore.
I'm not crazy about
40K or just normal.
I don't care they're
anything.
It's the same company, right?
Don't get him started. He's turning red.
I mean, you said you didn't like it at first, but you turn around and did come back and say that
it's the
Warhammer was growing.
Oh yeah,
it's the DLC.
Yeah, they took my money. They gladly took all my money just so I could play the fucking campaign map that should have been available. You had to buy the other. Let's not talk about it.
I mean, the grudges in that game. Okay. Regardless of, they do include a mechanic in the game that is legit politics. You know, the grudge map,
right? But I think that
trade and all that stuff. But I mean, that goes with all Total War games.
Yeah, I think that kind of falls into that category of Civilization games as well, where it's more like a driving mechanic of the game, more so than an immersion factor.
It has to be there,
right? To make a believable like war campaign, I guess. Those are the reasons why. I think one that I don't know if you guys had Fallout New Vegas is one that like jumps out at me with the was it the NCR and the Legion? Like the Legion was like that hardcore like kind of fascist regime, and then you got the dystopian
politics,
right? Yeah, and then essentially, then I think the NCR was more like democratically kind of more of a democracy set up in that sense. And then I think some of the other big players was there like that computer that was like out to rule everybody. You could side with him.
I liked him
and things like that. But
yeah, they did cool. I remember that.
Well, they did a really good job.
Probius.
It's just funny. I watched a YouTube video, and I think Ben was talking about this a little bit earlier. Just the quality of writing nowadays and the level of effort it takes, and graphics kind of take the forefront away from it now. I was watching a YouTube video. They were comparing the dialogue between Fallout New Vegas and like a Fallout 4. I think that the transition between companies there. And how shallow not only the dialogue is that you're being engaged to, but your actual responses to the dialogue. It's all very simplified and just kind of regurgitate like little tiny.
I'm glad you brought that up because this is actually like this is where I kind of wanted to end this conversation. Well, we don't have to like end it right here, but this is like
I want to say one more thing.
The final chapter here, but. I think you're absolutely right. I think that games haven't wanted to go in depth with the story. And to go in depth with the story, you need to be semi-political. And I wanted to talk about, I think there's a lot of factors that come into this, that of why devs haven't been willing to write this story and this narrative to make their games better. To what degree do you think that the current US political climate has on devs not wanting to write a political story? With the outrage, the potential outrage from different groups, or just the blowback and people not wanting to buy the games, like to what degree do you think that's a factor? Since the show is about politics, I'd like to tie that in. And then I think there's other factors too. Like, do you think that that's more prevalent than something like wanting to appeal to the largest audience possible?
I mean, I think we can answer that question. Sorry, go.
That's all right. Not enough dev time to implement a complex story because you have to churn out a game for a roadmap, or even just something like. They can engage you with loot boxes, so they really don't like give a fuck about the story. I think there's a lot to go over here, but
I mean, I think we can kind of answer that with our last topic in podcast. In the last podcast episode was when the whole politically charged quote. In recent months, definitely. Within the last year, it's been a big deal. I mean, pop culturally, it's been a big deal.
I don't think it is a big
deal. I mean, how couldn't you? I mean, look at movies.
I think that the media.
We just talked about the other day about the.
Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, we just talked about the other day. People are in an uproar about sexual orientation in Lion King. You know what I mean? It's all over the place in pop culture.
I don't think
they're literally marketing like, we said that
the majority of people don't think like that though, man. I think that's fringe people, and I think that the people actually that get really worked up and actually are vocal about it and actually like want to do something and are like, right. That's like such a small percentage of it. They just have the spotlight on them. And I mean,
but it's there, you know what I'm saying? And that's exactly, you're making the exact point I'm trying to make is the spotlight is on them. Right. It's not on the people like us.
Because it sells. That's what sells the papers. That's what sells the fucking clicks.
You're right. But I mean, at the same time, like, look, whether Outer Worlds becomes a good game or is a good game at release, whatever you want to say, they still came out pre-release and said, look, we're not going to be politically charged, whatever that's supposed to mean, because we've never heard that before in the gaming industry. When have you ever heard of a game coming out where they're pre-advertising no politics in games? I think that
this is going to be tried out for a little bit. If you would ask me, I think that they are going to go with this political, and I don't even think they're going to take sides. Really, I think that it might be for advertising purposes to implement it in advertising, and who knows, it might not even have fucking politics in it. They might just be saying like, "Ooh, subjectively, you may take this as politics, but it's not politically charged because it's not. It's your perspective." Right,
like, but then on the other hand,
we don't have any vision. There's no transparency on what's going on here.
True. We have yet to see the game as well. But on the other hand, we have CD Projekt Red saying, nah, it's not going to be there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I did. What did I read about? Was that an article actually that you
there are different lines?
Adam was just talking about it. The religious
theme. Yeah.
Okay, so they're saying no religious theme.
No, they were gonna. I think they were saying that they were going to base religions in the game off of like religions that we may know currently, but they don't mean any offense by like their interpretation of them in the game. Is what they're trying to say.
I don't see them. It's not the way that they are. So I think that they would be depicted in a historical sense. I don't think that they would be depicted in a political.
Well,
it is political, but
it's Cyberpunk. I think is the game they were talking about, right?
Yeah.
For that, so I mean, it's going to be
futuristic, but right. I'm saying they will base it off the history of what has already happened, not what's happening currently or the current people who occupy political space that think about religions in a way. I don't see CD Projekt Red doing that, but who knows? Maybe they're turning on us.
I think we have two good examples coming out in the gaming industry, Cyberpunk being one, and this Outer Worlds that would allow us to answer this question better. But we won't know until we particularly see what's going on politically within those games.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I kind of want to ask the question in a different way. Do you think that it's possible to release a politically charged game, even if you're just discussing an idea? Like, do you think it would be possible to release something like BioShock in today's climate, just due to the fact that everybody talks about politics all day, every day in their normal lives, and they relate that to any like media and art that they're consuming?
Yes. I mean, there were political debates going on when that game came out. It's just different.
Yeah, but it's not the same as it is today.
No, it's
there's definitely more sensitivity there, but I mean,
I think that's putting it pretty lightly. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's very possible. I think that, how long ago did Infinite come out?
Was that 2012, 2013?
I mean, it wasn't in prime time what's going on right now. But like that's why I said I to go along with what you said, Matt, to stick closer to your topic is I don't think there has been one recently. I think that if we got maybe a new Grand Theft Auto game, that would be a very good example of where we would see like limits being pushed and opinions being made. I think Rockstar even came out and said that they aren't even willing to put out another GTA game because of the political climate right now.
Okay, I mean that's basically what I'm asking. Yeah. Okay, well that's
kind of against it, right?
The thing for me is there's so much. I think there's so much negative communication between the community and in the industry in general. And it has that subjective feel where it's always negative. It's always it's tribal. It's like somebody's got to pick a side, and if the politics are implemented into the games, then you have to pick a side. And if they depict your side in a bad way, then you're pissed off, and then you're on Twitter, and then you're talking about it, and then you're like, oh shit, well these developers suck. Let's talk about it to more people, And then before you know it, there's a petition to get rid of the fucking, to go in there and like do a fucking update to get rid of the shit.
Yeah, then you lose half your fucking audience because they're Republican or Democrats. It's like, is it really worth it?
Do you really think that they're losing that many people because of politics?
Well, they're definitely caving to the pressure, because look what happened with that Assassin's Creed at the end of the game there. The romance, and they have a child or whatever, and they had to go back and make it like asexual. Essentially, it couldn't be just like a man and a woman kind of thing, because apparently there was enough, even if it wasn't a lot of people, it was enough negative like press on them to make them look bad enough to feel like they needed to make a change.
Okay, well, as an example, would you say if CD Projekt Red turned around and came out and said that our game will be very political and it will have modern politics?
They were religion. I don't know if they're doing politics.
I'm just hypothetically. Yeah, do you think it would really change the people buying it? Like that game is gonna just do awesome. Either that game is gonna kill it when it comes out. It's gonna sell so much. You know what I mean? Even now. Yeah. I mean, but yeah, I mean that's a pretty extreme example. I mean, because CD Projekt Red is just like whoa, but. Do you? I mean, maybe in a lesser so, like if EA were to do something like that, people would be like, it would be a dumpster fire. But like, I think because I guess what I'm getting at here is like, there's room for forgiveness. You know what I mean? Like Bethesda's under fire right now, EA's under fire right now. I think it all depends on who's in the spotlight, when and where, for what reason. And I think that like our politics going on in real life does affect that, but I'm not so sure it would affect games like Cyberpunk 2077.
I think
if it was like Anthem, then yeah, but
I think that you can release a political game today, but you have to do it really, really well. I think that's why like The Witcher was so successful. And why Cyberpunk will be very successful. But I think that it's a big risk, and companies realize that, and they know they're gonna take a lot of heat, no matter what they put out. Like they're gonna get bad press, 100%. Like they will get bad press eventually. And I think that the big players, I think your EAs and your Bethesdas, they don't want to go near that shit. Why would they? Because I think that they're trying to appeal to 100 million people. Yeah. And they don't want to appeal to 70 million. They want 100 million, and when you get political, you start to cut off your base little by little. You'll cut off.
My recommendation would be to developers who really want to bring people back to games for the good story that have the politics of that world, of that universe or whatever game we're talking about. Just go back to taking some time on the story. Setting up the history of the story, setting up like really characters that are immersive and have that are intertwined in that history, and like do a good job with that, and then you can build up from that. You can add the good gameplay mechanics, you know, you can add the good soundtrack. It's like, it's such a good fucking place to start, right?
I have a really good example of this. You guys remember Modern Warfare 2? Do you remember the mission, the airport mission?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's pretty unforgettable.
Mm-hmm. Right. So do you think that Activision, or I guess it would have been Infinity Ward then, could have gotten away with having something like that? But I mean, in their games now, but I mean, they've already come out and said that there will be like what we keep saying, trendy, you know, hot topics, you know, very edgy shit. They've already come out and said like this is going to be an edgy, politically charged, you know, military game, you know. But
you talking about the
I would be
the new one,
yes. Yeah. But I would be surprised for them to see them put something like that airport mission in a game.
What's the plot for this one? Isn't it like you're going around the UK and you're like barging into people's homes to bust terrorists and stuff like that? Isn't that like
we get dirty so the world stays clean?
Yeah, I mean that's what the plot. Well, I just for the listener, if they have just like that's what the plot is.
Does it have to do with the Irish rebels or
the IRA?
I don't think. I think it's in the UK.
Futuristic.
This is too modern. The IRA was too far
back.
Okay,
it's modern times. I think that. I mean, the game's probably going to do well, but I mean, they're already taking heat for that game, right?
Yeah, because
they released the demo, but they released the demo.
Dude, it was the article that I read was garbage. They fucking said because it was too violent, because they shot a woman who was going for an AK or something, like going to run into a room to grab an AK, like they blasted her down, and there was kids running away and stuff. They're like, you can't have the kids.
Did that really affect Chris Kyle and his movie? You know what I mean? People were pissed about that too, like when he shot that kid or that woman in that movie.
Make up your mind.
It didn't yeah, right, exactly. You know what I mean?
Stop being so fickle.
Well, I mean, it sounds like there's still a market for it, right? That people are going to push that envelope, and depending on who you are and what you're going for, really. I mean, in a game like that, I mean, they're really probably not building too much of a story there or anything like that. There's probably not a lot of development. You're essentially just walking, hey, like, there's some people in this building, get in there and get them. Like, that's probably all the more there is to it, and you're just going to walk in and just start shooting. You know, but those.
Well, even in the article, the guy team that's like,
all of them. Did you see that they had like the live interviews, like everybody coming out, like they were like shell shocked. They were like, I feel like I was there, like I killed those people. Their hands were
like ready to cry.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck? Who are these people? They have to be actors.
They're game journalists. No, they're
the gaming industry, like, oh my god, it's very dramatic and very opinionated, and we play favorites. Whether we want to sit here and admit it, each one of us will play favorites. You know, like we're all sitting here saying CD Projekt Red is going to be good, regardless of the political avenues. You know what I mean?
I'm pure objective. I don't let my feelings get in the way.
Yeah, that's why we do this podcast.
That was like a futuristic robot Jaws.
It was, yeah.
What, you?
Yeah,
like some robot sharks.
just the facts here at Arcadian.
I think we have very good examples coming down the pipeline that would allow us to return to this topic with more detail and ideas.
Good point. Yeah. I think that we're all in agreement that here we go again. Story.
Here we go again.
Get back to the story, you know.
Yo, we come back to it because it's really important, and we've been missing it. I mean, that's why we harp on games, and we've been talking about the games from the past decade and stuff, and we can't find a game that we like to play.
That's why we're all waiting for 2077, baby.
The year, not the game.
Yeah. Well done.
Before they get back to the good.
Well, we say like well done politics and well done, religious themes and games that makes for a really good story. So
yeah.
It'd be nice to see them turn around. I mean, I know these guys. What they call them? D&D. The guys that did. They're not the Duffer Brothers. Those guys did Stranger Things, but the Game of Thrones guys are about. I guess probably going to be the guys who are doing the KOTOR cinematic thing. Movie. So it'll be very interesting to go back to Wolf's first point about a game that does it really well. We'll see how.
Mm-hmm. I want to say real quick, really important thing. Two things.
Yep.
Two things. First of all, Suikoden, you Goombas. You want to talk about political? Suikoden 1, 2, and 3. I mean, they all have great politics in it, and you are fucking knee deep. It's about revolution and standing up. Yeah, fight for what's right, man.
And which is why you love it. Yeah, it's fantastic.
But also, I wanted to say,
what's the second thing? Suikoden 2.
Well, yeah, Suikoden. Well, no, that's my favorite, but Suikoden 3 is pretty good too. Now I forgot what I was gonna say.
It's okay, man.
Well, I think I think that we're on agreement too. I think just my closing statement is just that the climate definitely sucks for politics and a good story, but I think that there are some devs that are still willing to try it, and I just wish that more would continue to try it, because those are usually the games that are the best and the most memorable. But let's hit trending pretty hard here. Fortnite World Cup happened this week. The entire tournament gave out a total of $30 million in prize money. 30 million. With the 16-year-old winner of the solo tournament, Bugha. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sorry. I don't really follow Fortnite that much. Taking home $3 million himself. $1.8 million for second place, $1.2 million for third, and $1.05 for fourth.
Could you imagine pulling $3 million for winning a tournament? Like, I went to a Halo tournament.
It's probably like a grand.
When Halo 2 was out, and we didn't get shit, dude. It was just like we won, and that was like
just for pride.
Yeah.
But just to close this up, just like one more stat, just before. That's all right. About 40 million out of Fortnite's 250 million player base competed to take a spot in this tournament, with 200 players making the cut, with an average of being 16 years old and from 34 different countries, it's pretty insane.
Does anybody know why Ninja didn't make it? How come he didn't qualify?
Is he not good enough?
I just think it's hyper competitive, man. I mean, if you have a bad day,
Tifu made it in.
I just think that
no idea.
I think anytime you're up against 40 million people and only 200 people make the cut, I think that there's room for some error there. I
think even having Ninja in there would have brought even more audience to.
Well, they made that's a statement. They want the best players,
right?
Yeah, I like it.
I like that too.
I like it.
It's really cool that design. I wouldn't have hated it if they would have said, "Hey, let's just bring Ninja in." I mean, obviously he's like the most famous Fortnite player, just to up the viewership or something like that. But obviously they don't need to do that, and makes for a good competitive space, right? Moving forward. I mean, granted, I don't like the game, but if they can keep it competitive like this and not cave to that kind of pressure that we gotta have X, Y, and Z here, or we can't do a shit another tournament, that kind of thing.
Tifu made it in, but Tifu dethroned Ninja. He has more hourly viewership than Ninja now.
Does he now?
Fortnite.
Yeah, I'm surprised if he'll last as long as Ninja, though. He was on top.
I mean, Ninja still got the subscriber count, I think, and the follower count. I mean, I know Summit gets in there with his follower sub count, but yeah, Tifu passed Ninja up in hourly viewing.
Well, I think just like talking about the World Cup and the game, like I think Adam, I agree with you. I don't really love Fortnite either, but I really like what it's doing for the esports scene. I mean, this is $30 million in prize money for the year. It's amazing. I actually really, really like it. I like esports in general. I think it's really exciting, and I'm just glad that it's being able to put out so much money and to bring in so many viewers, even without somebody like Ninja. I prefer it to traditional sports. Someone who's played traditional sports and watched traditional sports all my life, I like esports a lot better, and I just hope that it continues to gain momentum. I would love to see like baseball just go away.
It
stinks. Good.
You guys were always big into even betting on League.
Oh yeah.
What was the biggest prize pool that League ever got? I mean, was it 30 million?
No. 30 million's huge.
I mean, remember when those League prizes started to come out? You were like, wow, that's a lot of money for League. You know what I mean? And now you're seeing 30 million for Fortnite.
I'm not that surprised by this shit. Come on, guys.
And it's a decade
money
younger.
Fucking Epic Games pulls it.
Yeah. When we talked about it, it was like 1.6 billion they've made on Fortnite over the past 2 years or something.
Yeah, but Fortnite is a decade older. You know what I mean? It's
investment in the esports with a huge company in the esports, and you put money into something. It's easy. It's easy.
My point is, look at the charts, right? League and Fortnite are on the top, right? They fluctuates between top 3 for them
easily,
right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fortnite is what? Let's say even its earliest alpha or beta versions, the Fortnite Battle Royale is like what, 3 years old at most?
It's like barely.
Let's say earliest alpha iterations, maybe over 2 years. Okay, let's say just around about 2 years.
I can tell you without alpha, it's a little bit less than 2 years.
League came out in what, 08, 09? Okay. Yeah, what was the prize pool for League after 2 years? It wasn't even out of beta yet, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's different. I mean, League kind of paved the way for Fortnite's success in a way. I mean, it's different. It's different.
Completely.
Yeah, they're different genres.
The landscape's different.
I'm just saying the difference in prize pool.
Yeah, but people aren't as afraid to invest in esports. They've seen success. They know that it works. Like,
in my own opinion, I'd say League is a more competitive game than Fortnite.
Fuck yeah!
By leaps and bounds. My opinion.
That's a team.
I don't even know if that's your opinion. I think that you can say absolutely.
I mean, you have your
This was a solo, right?
There were duos too, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the solo champion that
Bugaboo.
Well, did you see that
16-year-old snot-nosed brat?
Well, $30 million, that's a ton of money to be thrown around. But I think their commitment to tournaments, I think it was for 2018, 2019, $100 million in prize pool money.
Very cool.
So there's more money coming. I don't know where they're putting it, but
I'm happy to see that the esports has gotten to this point. Man, that is a fucking lot of money for a game that's 2 years old.
You're thinking of a career change, big deal.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I give myself an aneurysm before I was able to compete in Fortnite competitively.
A little too old now. Can't keep
that's for kids on Adderall.
Well, I mean, that kind of like, that bewilderment, that wonderment you're having over that $30 million prize pool, that kind of thing. Isn't that like, Matt was saying, like, with traditional sports when we were growing up, and you would see, like, I don't know, even like the last 10 years, like some quarterback, like fucking, I don't know, like Joe Flacco signs a $100 million contract in sports, something like that.
Yeah,
like,
and he can only throw to half the field too.
Right. I mean, heck, I could do that.
Yeah, but that's not really a tournament.
Well, no. I'm not talking about in a tournament sense. I'm talking about like that's the kind of like wonderment. That's the kind of like spectacle. That's what gets like imaginations rolling for young kids.
Yeah,
but dude, I think that also is forms of entertainment. It's weird with forms of entertainment because like these people really shouldn't be making this much fucking money, dude. I mean, well, listen. I disagree. I know, Mo. I know where you're coming from. Fucking accountant.
I shouldn't.
I know that you think I'm a financial consultant.
Financial consultant. I know that. Of course, like in damn it.
You really think
the free market prices things just as they should be priced?
Right? Yes, exactly. Thank you, Matt. You just finished my thought. So yeah, the free market. But what I'm saying is we should really investigate what we fucking value.
Well, I don't disagree there. Yeah, I don't disagree.
Do we really investigate the Mongoloids?
That's the second time you said Mongoloids today. That's enough.
Is there a prize pool for the home run derby?
Mammoths out there.
What's that, Josh?
Is there a prize pool for the home run derby, or like back in the day it was like the N1 dunk tournament?
I don't know.
They would.
But it'd be like 10 grand.
Usually that stuff's like charity and stuff like that.
Yep, that's true.
That's completely
the thing is Epic made an investment in something that's going to be successful. It may not be really successful in next 5 years, but it's the future of entertainment.
Absolutely.
So they're getting a foothold.
I'm glad you said that. It's a testament to esports success and the work that people have done for the last 10 to 15 years to make it successful. I think that's why this is so important. I think it shows that esports has finally gotten there. And I think, Ben, just what you said, like the trend on this stuff, I think if you looked at this, actually, this might be the topic of the next show, because this would be a great thing to talk about. But I think if you looked at this trend and you really looked at viewership hard, like across everything, if you looked at MOBAs and you looked at battle royales and shooters, and you looked at who was viewing esports month in and month out, and you looked at baseball and you looked at basketball and hockey, I think you would start to see those numbers getting very, very close.
Mm-hmm.
And one is very much on the rise, and the other one is probably very stable or kind of starting to slowly decline.
What's the Super Bowl?
And that's not going to change. That's not going to change.
Can we know? Can we find a number as to how many viewers this tournament had?
Oh,
can anybody find that?
I'd be surprised to know that too.
I don't know if they're out yet.
Let's compare it to the Super Bowl. What was this tournament called?
I know. I used to look, Josh, just for reference. I think a few years ago when League was having its World Championships, I actually looked at that, and League was getting more viewers than the baseball World Series was at that time, and that was like 3 years ago.
Yeah,
and it was just League, so it's pretty.
Yeah, it's one thing is that's coming up.
There was 2.33 million viewers for this most recent.
I don't think they've
Fortnite tournament, and 22.7 million hours watched.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if that was close to the Super Bowl. But
Super Bowl has more viewers, but I would say hours watched. I mean, obviously, it's a lot.
Well, I mean, people are watching the Super Bowl for the fucking commercials.
Yeah, anymore.
I'd probably say 30% of the people watching the Super Bowl.
98.2. So like big margins there.
Oh yeah,
we're throwing a lot of percentages and numbers out.
Yeah. I mean, and that's a fair assessment. But I think my point is just that I wouldn't be surprised in 10 years if you see those getting really, really stinking close, man.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I would maybe even less than 10 years.
As the gaming community grows in platforms like Twitch and Mixer and what was that new one that came out that's dead in the water already?
Yeah. But yeah, Dead Live.
As stuff like that comes, YouTube, all that stuff, yeah, for sure. We look at the it's like this. If you were to look at it on a trending chart, I guarantee you it
would be insane,
straight up. So yeah, I agree with you, Matt. It in a decade,
we're all going to be hooked up to the shit. We're not going to be living our lives.
Well,
we'll be robots.
Yeah, I hear about it all the time now, just from the people I work with. They have kids, young kids, and that's all they do. Like they do play traditional sports still, but if they're not, they're playing Fortnite. They all of them, and I feel like we're already hitting that point in this next generation here, where there's going to be kids were already playing video games, and we were young. That was the thing, but it not to this extent where you can make like a career out of it. You can make a living, like it's a legitimate thing. Yeah. There's not a ton of people to do it, but
to go on what you're saying, I literally just thought about while I was being a slave at work over the last 3 days. Is like I would sooner watch somebody play a game than I mean, there are exceptions. Like I binge watch Stranger Things the whole way through, but
yeah,
I would much sooner watch somebody play a game that I haven't played or a game that I like and would like to see another viewpoint on than sit down and watch some garbage TV. I would I have a really hard time finding a show to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Movies is a little different, but shows, I find
it's really
every day. It's very hard to be dedicated to a show now.
It's games or anime for me, man. And I don't know.
Even anime, I would rather watch a show.
Maybe that's a sad existence. But that's what I was going to say. Or I'll read
manga,
or I'll read books. I was just going to say that.
Yeah. I'd sooner
read a manga. It used to be YouTube, but I stopped that shit because
I did too. Books.
You're not making your own choices on YouTube anymore.
Yeah.
Books for me, like I always think I want to sit down and read them, and I get into it. And I don't know. I think maybe like my mind is just too cluttered that I can't sit down and focus. But I think that's the case. I just can't. I can't get into them. I get there and I read like the first couple of chapters. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty good. Once I put it down, it's like gone. I forget about it.
Let's just wait for the next Patrick Rothfuss book to come
I think
out.
that's But anyway, let's wrap this conversation there because I think I really might want to talk about that next week, the esports thing, because it's really interesting and it's something that we could probably really dive into if we pulled some numbers together. But last news for the day here. This is really something else. A new report was just released that states that 74% of adult gamers have experienced some form of online harassment during their gaming careers. So this study was done by the Anti-Defamation League and surveyed 1,000 people, pretty small sample size to make a claim about all adult gamers. Here's how the study results break down. 65% of players out of the 1,000 said that they've experienced severe harassment, which includes physical threats, stalking, and sustained harassment. 29% of the 1,000 said that they have been doxxed at some point in their gaming career.
What is doxxed?
Okay, it's whenever like your actual personal info or your personal name is given out.
Oh, I mean, we just said it earlier. Like, go into a Halo 2 lobby back in 2007 or whatever, or Modern Warfare 2. Like, man, you better have some thick skin.
Well, before we even get into that, exactly. My point here is like these numbers. They're so staggering that I found them hard to believe. And when I say I found them hard to believe, I mean like I don't believe them.
Yeah,
really? These are. I think 29%.
1,000 might have been handpicked.
I think that is
300 out of 1,000 people have been doxxed.
That doesn't make any sense. I mean,
no, it doesn't.
Unless you already putting yourself out there in some way, like on Twitter or Twitch or something like that. I don't know how anybody could get access to your information like that. That doesn't make any sense.
How many of those people are reporting that are saying that someone said, I'm going to find out your address, and then they consider that doxing because they don't understand the concept?
I don't know. 650 people out of 1,000
I believe
say that they've had severe physical threats, stalking, and sustained harassment. I mean, that isn't like
Yeah,
I don't believe it. I don't believe it for a second.
Dude, the online community is rough, man. You tell me you can't go into how many times you gone into a PUBG lobby and somebody was like, "Fuck you, dude, kill yourself."
That isn't severe harassment.
I think it's a matter of whether you take the time out to
maybe it's a subjective definition that we need to talk about. But my definition of severe harassment is not saying like, "Hey, fuck you, get good at PUBG." Like, I don't care.
The problem,
if I got that question, I'd say no.
The problem comes back on the person. Just about 99.9% of these games give you the option to mute this.
Yeah.
You have outside ways of communicating with people who you actually want to talk to. Like we're using Discord right now, right? Exactly. TeamSpeak, Skype, all that stuff. You have every opportunity to go in and mute that. Look at Heroes of the Storm. We play that. You can't even see what the other people are saying. In League, though, you can talk to everyone else, but you do have the option to mute that.
Me personally, I've told people I'm gonna find where you live and beat the shit out of you.
We have, including myself, we have many people among our group of friends that will shit talk. And I grew up in the Halo COD generation. I shit talk. I'm a big shit talker. I'm a whiner. I'm a complainer, and I'm a shit talker.
Right. I think a lot of people are like that. And competitive sports. I think we've talked about this in the past. Like even with traditional sports, that there's a lot of trash talking. Like anything is competitive, and online games are at this point, more competitive than they ever have been in the past. It's going to bring out this kind of hostility in people. I want to say that at least 65% of times that I get on and even play, the only game I really play online is HOTS. is someone you get flamed by somebody,
but you're getting severely harassed.
Yeah.
Well, by that definition, like the physical harm or stalking or something like that. Yeah, I bet every time somebody says
so
something,
65% of times you get a physical threat. No way. I play with you every week.
If I wasn't playing, if we weren't just literally play with like a group of 5 people most of the time, but yeah, solo stuff. We just got into the last time we played. We got into it with those. I told people.
I told him to eat my ass.
You guys,
that's not a physical threat.
That is a physical threat.
Okay, so mine
is a physical threat.
I think mine covers the doxing and the 65% as well. I'm going to find where you live and beat your ass.
That is a physical threat. Yes.
Okay.
My mom used to have to come in. My mom used to have to come into the playroom when I was a kid playing Halo 2 and literally pull me away from the TV screen. I'd be this close to the TV screen, like, fuck you. I'm gonna get into
that was
it.
A different, that was a different time.
Anyone watching or listening, please reference toxicity.
Yeah, I think it's episode 18. We talk about toxicity in gaming.
We get into
okay,
that.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm just like a complete ass or a dick or something.
No, but I don't think it's justified that people should be this affected by it. I think that's my point. Comes with the territory.
Like, yeah.
When someone says like, dude, like, I'll fucking kill you or something online, which I shouldn't even use that language on this show. I apologize. But like, I don't consider that like a severe threat. Like, they don't know who I am. They're just mad. Like, I'm never going to talk to this person again. Like, it's just like a frustration that is typed out. That isn't like a threat to your physical being.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming after you.
It's on you to end that conversation.
Yeah, maybe that's the line that I'm just not seeing. But
right.
We'd have to start a psychological
you have every opportunity
psychological
to mute that
insight.
Shit, period.
Yeah.
They give you an option in most competitive online games to mute that shit. If you're going to go and feel threatened and consider it online bullying and all that crap, yeah, it's there, definitely. But you have every opportunity to mute it before you even get into a game.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's on you. It's on you.
To take that a step further there, just with this study in general, I mean, you could just...
Some people don't know.
I mean, Ben's saying like a psychological study. I mean, you just take this one step further, like those 1,000 people, how many of those actions, how many of those threats were acted upon? I would say 0.
Yeah,
none of those people were physically harmed. Yeah. And if they got away from the internet, they probably weren't sustained harassment, that kind of thing. You can get away, just like you were saying, Josh, like no one, I don't want to say no one ever, but I want to say 99.99 repeating % of people are not like, having to eat somebody's ass because they got yelled
Phil
at.
and I have both been banned from communications. Phil and I have both been banned from communications on Xbox.
So
so like I can't sit
Phil's
here.
Phil's been banned from League of Legends for
yeah, it's true. But you have every opportunity to take action upon that. And I think that the worst case scenario I think ties into this is this swatting thing. I think it's kind of died down a little bit, but swatting I think is like the pinnacle of this online harassment shit. To have
it's awful. Yeah,
SWAT team. You get the SWAT.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Never mind. Sorry.
So you can't really do anything about that, and I think that just comes with the territory. But there are pieces of garbage people that'll go out there and do that. But yeah, there's not really a mute button for that there.
I just got the swatting thing. I think there's a SWAT team going to my house right now. You just see me get tackled. Dogs tear me apart.
That's an extreme case. But like Wolf said, 99.99999% of those threats and shit talk you get is just garbage. Internet curtain badass crap. Nobody's gonna talk like the way people talk to each other on the internet to somebody to their face. Nobody ever.
I guess like I don't think that it's necessarily like a good thing that the environment is like that. Like people probably shouldn't say things that they don't want to say to you just because you're over the internet and you're not standing in front of them. Like I don't think like I'm not like defending the environment. I think that we can all agree that we would like it to not be like that. But I think on the other hand, there has to be like this study doesn't show that like these numbers just don't like I don't think they actually like say anything about the community. Like
yeah, true. I think that to go along with that, there are so many people who have been overexposed to this toxic, cancerous environment that, like, say you're actually taking a game seriously and you're trying to give somebody even constructive criticism. 9 times out of 10, those people are going to be like, "Go fuck yourself." You know.
Yeah.
Reference to toxicity.
It's a sensitive environment.
Episode 18.
Right. I mean, but you got to think about that too. Like if you were, I don't know, even like traditional sports, like the time for like coaching somebody wasn't like right in the middle of the fucking game. Like you would have flipped out on them too, you know, like, you know, between like teammate to teammate, you know, unless you had your coach saying something to you, like generally, you know, tensions are high, that kind of thing.
You know, if I was playing HOTS and one of you guys said, "Josh, you shouldn't be doing this. You should be doing this."
Yeah, but you know us. Yeah, but
it's not a good example.
Right, but like, true. But I mean,
I get what you're trying to get at.
I think if you can level with yourself, if you can be level with yourself, then just take it. Just be cool.
Yeah, but Ben would say, "Hey, Josh, you mongoloid, get over here."
The dude abides. I mean, just in our last HOTS video, I was like, "God, this stun is so long." Ben's like, "It's asleep." And I'm like, "Yeah, just because you know the names of the abilities doesn't make you good."
You're all over.
You know.
Well, and I said something like, "Yeah, it makes me the best."
But you know. I wouldn't sit here and be like, "Fuck you, Matt, for telling me how to play the game." And if it was a game, to be straight up honest with you, if I were to get on League of Legends and somebody was like, okay. So I've never really played many MMOs in my life, and I've been on this Final Fantasy 14 kick, and I can go into an instance and know that what I'm doing probably isn't the best way to do it. You know what I'm saying? And if somebody says, "Hey, do this," knowing that my experience level for these games is relatively low, I'm just going to take it, you know,
brother.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of,
Unfortunately, everybody's the best at any game they're playing. You know, like we're all playing in like silver or bronze in like league or something, but we're getting coached by the guy who's also in silver, bronze with us. Copper, wood, whatever, iron division. Like they're the same level as you, but you're not going to take that kind of constructive criticism, which it probably isn't too constructive on there.
A lot of it falls on tone. You know, like you can't read somebody's tone in text.
Right.
I mean, if there was more VoIP options in a lot of games, and there are a lot of early access games that we get that don't have options for VoIP.
Well, I mean, HOTS has that, and nobody uses it because nobody wants to talk to each other. They'd rather just that anonymity is like way more comfortable than to have to hear somebody else's voice.
But I mean, I think I think to give the human race more credit, I think if you could just talk to somebody like, "Hey, man," like it's all about tone, I think, too. You know, like, "Hey, man, let's do it." You know, sure, you'll get.
There is no tone over text.
Yeah.
Go screw yourself. But there are a lot of people there. I don't know.
In a perfect world, yes, but I don't think that's ever going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, I'll let it go.
All right, let's wrap the show there. I think that was really good. Thanks so much for coming on and having that political discussion. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening. If you listen to this on Spotify and iTunes, please check out our YouTube channel where we post the live VODs as well as our other gaming-related content. We actually have a whole new gameplay-related series coming out pretty soon, which we're super excited about. So be sure to check that out. just thank you again. Just can't tell you how much we appreciate you listening, and we'll see you next week.